Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Most people have probably, maybe when they were in high school, read Orwell's dreary dystopian novel 1984. It's 40-something years past that, what's happening, what's going on. Some of the people lately, I've received a number of questions from people that participate in our webinar. And it appears that Orwell missed it by 40-something years maybe, but it's fast approaching. And if I might just, flock is one of the multitude of threats. It was started in 2017 by some big tech guys, whose names you might recognize. You like these billionaires running your life, at any rate. So this system right now is in 5,000 communities across the United States, and it goes way beyond license plate recognition. And they're going to integrated predictive software with some of the other packages that are coming out now that can basically, they track off your doorbell. And again, this is a private company. And so they're marketing their services to the police agencies and to homeowners associations and so on. And they say, oh, yeah, this helps in crime prevention. But let me just as I was sitting here, I thought, let me just read you a question that somebody sent me. And I get these pretty in-depth questions. This sounds like, holy cow, it's an essay. No, it's not. It's people that are thinking about these things are thinking. And this is really upon us right now. And our legislative bodies need to probably step in and intervene. I mean, because this is being marketed across a whole spectrum of things. You might remember that Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report, where they use precogs, they call them, to predict crime. And this kind of predictive technology is having responses, and it's a real step beyond the red flag laws that Trump and Bondi and some of these people have been in favor of, where they take away your guns because you might have a problem, But here's the question. Sam, when I get done with the question, we could take this 1,000 different ways and spend the whole time together on this, but we don't need to, but people need to think about it at least. Okay, here's the question. What could we do to organize against these flock camera systems that are being used by local police agencies to violate our rights protected by the Fourth Amendment? They're using technologies that is owned by private companies that are not restricted by the Constitution in order to sidestep the safeguards that are in place. They track our every movement to keep tabs on every American. Then they use AI systems that are fully connected to every government agency nationwide: healthcare, bank accounts, social media accounts, and conversations, etc. Then they use predictive models to build a case against you. We're past the comfort of the proverbial silken cord and have begun to realize the horrors of the steel chains that are being tightened around our necks, and most of whom are completely unaware that the threat even exists. We're stepping into a true life Minority Report scenario. So that's the Minority Report film I just referred to that Tom Cruise was in. You can look at it. It's a pretty dystopian kind of movie that's quite depressing, actually. But at any rate, these are upon us, 5,000 communities. And now there are some communities that there's court cases that are going on. And there have been some rulings against this as a violation of the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure without warrants and so on. But the opposing viewpoint is, hey, you're in public. You can't expect to have privacy in public. But see, this is a focused, laser-sharpened kind of approach to things. And there are some court cases that probably there's going to get more before there's less, but most of us don't have the resources to fight it. So we might take a preemptive approach to this and approach our legislative bodies, our sheriffs. I've met with my sheriff, I don't know how many times, not about this specific issue, but about other issues that are, to me, a bad direction for our country. And so you build a relationship during this time, but your legislators probably ought to start thinking about this. Now, by the way, in Utah, I think they're going the wrong direction. In Utah, they say, oh, we're protecting digital identities. And oh, my goodness, we're right on top of this. And they have a digital kind of czar and all this kind of stuff. But in my opinion, what they're doing is they're greasing the skids for something like this. And they say, well, we'll put guidelines up and everything. But no. When 5,000 communities are currently using this, and it's like I say, they take pictures of everybody's license plate, rear license plate. They get identifying factors off the car, color and dents and scratches. They got bumper stickers they're tracking. And if you remember, Sam, and I'll just kind of jog your memory a little bit, back in 2008, when we had those fusion centers that were going all across the country, you and I did a live call on the air to a Missouri fusion center where they were saying if you have a Chuck Baldwin or a Ron Paul sticker or a Second Amendment thing or
if you have a Liberty Roundtable sticker, baby,
and suddenly you're a domestic terrorist. And I mean, these kinds of things, I mean, this since 2008, that's been a few years, but this is orders of magnitude beyond that. And it's all integrated, and police can keep it. They usually say, oh, we just keep it 30 days. If the police want it and they're contracted with it, it's kept, so far as I know, in perpetuity. I mean, sooner or later, they're going to run out of storage, obviously. But you look at where the NSA has got things, maybe they're going to offload it to keep it in the cloud, if you will.
Well, they might have to send it to China for safekeeping. I mean, who knows where it goes?
Yeah, right.
But I want to take a step back to this discussion for a second, because I think that your viewer, listener, participant, whatever you want to call it, with the question is spot on. First of all, I mean, they're the way they phrase the question and the point that they're bringing up shows they understand the topic very well. And so I want to honor that and step back for a second and say this. The debate about, hey, you don't have a right to privacy because you're in public, that is a bogus, red herring, dishonest, manipulative statement. Let me explain what I mean. It's true you don't have a right to privacy when you're in public, because anybody could take a picture. I mean, you could be candid camera anywhere, right? And it's not really a problem or bad for people to have cameras up. Okay, that's not the problem. Okay, the problem is when you start to then take that camera data and start assembling pieces. In other words, building dossiers behind the scenes. Hey, Dr. Bradley has a blue car. Sometimes his wife drives a green car. This car has this license plate. Oh, by the way, Dr. Bradley lives at this location, and he has, Comcast or whatever internet. He has a recycling and a garbage can. So we start to build this. Hey, Dr. Bradley doesn't go much over the speed limit, but he always speeds. And we'll mark that down. And Dr. Bradley, we've seen that he has a gun in his truck. It's on a gun rack or whatever, but I mean, you can tell he's a redneck, whatever. He's got a gun rack and he's got a gun. So, he's put a danger flag on Dr. Bradley because of, and I can keep going, right? You've seen me paint the picture. I can go on forever because they just build and build. The problem with this discussion is probable cause. You don't have the right to violate me and my person or my papers unless there's literal probable cause. So just because there's a camera on the street, it might be a person's camera. It might be my door cam or on my garage pointed at the street and you're driving down the street. There's not really an issue with that, in my opinion, constitutionally. Private property people can have cameras. Governments can have cameras in the public eye. But it's when you start to take that information and that data and government starts partnering with a company like Flock, and then they start to look for patterns, look for, possible building dossiers on people to where if they ever want to arrest Sam Bushman, all they got to say is, hey, we've got all this data on Sam. He's guilty of this, or whatever. The problem is the gathering, the archiving, or the retaining of this data, and then the organizing it into some kind of a way that violates the probable cause discussion. That's really where I want to go, Doctor, because I don't have a problem if somebody has a camera anywhere. I can't stop it, and it's not unconstitutional to put up a camera. What is unconstitutional, though, is when we start to tie that into building dossiers, as you mentioned, these fusion centers that have up and down surveillance of and gathering data and passing it along. Hey, you know what? Sam Bushman was seen in Utah driving his pickup with a gun in Iraq, and now he's in Missouri. Hey, or now he's in California. Step it up. The laws are different in California because, see, they've gone and taken all that data and built that without any probable cause whatsoever of any crime or anything else. And so to me, it's the probable cause line that we really need to defend and discuss, Doctor.
And they have to go before a judge and present that information and swear an oath to it and all this kind of stuff. None of that's happening. Now, you look back and everybody, they say, oh, those damn Nazis in, 1934 or 38 or 42 or whatever. The Gestapo was building dossiers on people and papers. And Stasi, that's, East Germany, the KGB, Russia. You say, oh, those are all excellent examples of bad examples, because they were a totalitarian society and they built dossiers on people. Free societies do not.
Nothing compared to what they've got on us now. Quick pause, more in seconds. This topic continues. You're watching the one and only Liberty Roundtable live. Yes, indeed. The company's called Flock. Flock Camera Systems, being deployed nationwide, virtually assures the fulfillment of the 1984 Orwellian kind of prophecy of 100% monitoring. They're getting there, and they're getting there fast. And the problem is that, we got to understand this. You have every right to think and believe whatever you want to. But if your belief turns into actions of crime, that's when we've got a problem. And I reject the thought police idea that we're going to preemptively stop crimes, because you don't preemptively know what I'm thinking or believing or doing at all. And 9 times out of 10, it's out of context, and it's abuse of my rights. So we talked about this. They can have these cameras anywhere they want to and everything. But the problem is when they start to use that data, collate and organize that data into dossiers or into information about individuals. And then it's another thing from it being anonymous data to individual data. So if they take my face and compare it in face recognition technology behind the scenes and go, yep, that's Sam Bushman there. And then they start to add all these different pieces to the pie. What you've really got is an action without probable cause. That's violation 1, in my opinion. The second violation is due process. When you start to gather all that information on Sam Bushman or whoever, due process is inherently violated, because now you're gathering a bunch of details and facts on me. If you ever drug me into court for any reason, you could say Sam's guilty of these 46 infractions over the last decade. And I'm going, what? Yeah, he jaywalked over here. He did this. He did that. And the problem is now they've got all these details on me that they had no authority. Let me say that again. No authority to gather, archive, and assemble, because it violates my due process of law. And what I'd want to say to the court, although they'd shut me down, would be this. I need to see everything you've gathered on Sam Bushman at any time, anywhere, and I need to see the whole catalog. What have you built tied to Sam Bushman? Tied to my name, tied to my birth date, tied to my Social Security number, tied to my Social Security card, tied to my, I can keep going, right? My driver's license or the equivalent of an ID, my credit cards, my debit cards, my banking information, my vehicle information. We can go on and on and on and on and on. Insurance. How much of that have they gathered and assembled? I want to see the whole deet on that. And I would say to the judge, I need the right to subpoena this. And then the judge would say, no, we're just saying that you jaywalked, buddy, and you're in trouble. All we're talking about is jaywalking. So they would narrow the scope and attack me and deny me the ability to make my case that, you know what? There was no probable cause, first of all, for any of this. And secondly, you violated my due process rights. Dr. Bradley, isn't that really the fundamental core of the discussion?
Well, indeed it is. Just to give you some order of magnitude of the intrusion currently, these guys at Flock, using their own information, indicate that they take 20 billion trackings a month in the United States.
Hold on, say that number. Did you guys hear that? I don't even know what 20 billion trackings is. I can say the words, but how vast that is hard for me to comprehend. I don't even really know what a billion is. It's hard to understand. But 20 billion trackings?
A month. They're
month
scanning that many
without
vehicles.
any authorization, without any authority whatsoever. Violation of due process, violation of probable cause, guidelines, innocent until proven guilty. I mean, we go on, right?
And then you add to this the predictive and a correlative software that's out there. Palantir, you might have heard about, where they collate all these things together, and pretty soon they have. I mean, they can look at you basically if you got Ring cameras and your neighbors have them going down the street. They can ultimately and finally see where you were at any given moment as you drove down the street. And this kind of stuff they're integrating with audio software that they've got also. And they say, oh, you can do tracking of gunshots. Let's say you're in Chicago and you hear guns going off, and they have these, microphones that are put out there, and they report these locations to the police. And they're also integrating. They say, well, if someone's calling for help, we'll capture that. Well, how far is that from you and me walking down the street, Sam, and saying, doggone it, man, there's so many things going on in our legislature right now. It just isn't right how they're, narrowing our freedom. And now, how far away are we from
those
that?
flock cameras, Dr. Bradley, they're spying on us right now.
Well,
We
I
say
hope
that
they're
stuff, right?
not in my office, but they're probably, they're integrated into this broadcast. I mean, that's what NSA does.
Well,
But all
hold
of
on,
this,
just so you know, we know that when they have TVs in the room, they're taking snapshots of what you're watching on TV and sending it back to the companies that manufacture the TVs too. So how long will it be when there's a camera, this and that? We have no idea how much we're being spied on. And that's why I said if I were to go to court, I would want to demand, show me everything you've got on me and what you've collected without probable cause in violation of my due process rights, right?
and some communities are pushing back. And some of the things, the ACLU, for example, has some heartburn with this, as you might well imagine. But their heartburn, to me, it's a red herring. It's a distraction in so many ways. I mean, they're more concerned about is a preponderance of these uh, sensing devices being placed in minority communities. So they're looking at color of skin, socioeconomic status, and so on and so forth. They say,
And
"Oh
hold
my
on, what does
goodness."
that mean when they look at color of skin? Does that mean if I'm a white guy and I jaywalk, I'm in trouble, and if I'm a black guy and I jaywalk, it's all cool?
Well, it may be that, but what I'm
Is that what
saying
that
is
means?
the ACLU is saying, no, 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 you're putting these in the rough neighborhoods in Detroit or Chicago, and that's racist, and you can't do that. So it's like, no, wait a minute, where the crime is occurring, maybe we have an argument for putting it there, but
Well, and it's not racist, but then the question of probable cause in that case increases significantly. But again, I say we need to draw a fine line between, hey, we have this information, and when can it be used? So a gas station takes my photo coming in and getting gas or whatever. The gas station has every right, if they want to make sure that their property is safe, and cameras are the way to do that. But turning that information over to anybody that could be actionable without a court order is a criminal offense, in my view, right? They don't have authority to do that.
well, I'm telling you that some of this stuff is real time
It is.
transmission of information. I mean, if some vehicle pops up for some reason, and let's just say it gets to the point where the database is all shared, whether or not your vehicle has insurance. It's a lot of big deals with the law and everything like that. But let's say that we get all this integrated and collated information, and somebody had their insurance lapse,
Lapse.
and they go through a light. Let's just say they stopped at the green light. They stopped at the red light. They go on the green light, and oh my goodness! So the police could potentially get a real time report. This vehicle has lapsed insurance. It's immediately transmitted to nearby police. They have a real time response that they go on this kind of thing. You can see how this could unravel very, very quickly when we get these agencies now that are. I mean, okay, now I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit here, but right now, today in America, we have a militarized police movement. I'm not going to say it's completely engulfed everything and everybody, but the feds have basically purchased the mentality through training and through all sorts of arming up Everybody's in body armor. It's like they're in Fallujah, in the mean streets of Fallujah, and they're in a stack kicking down doors and all this. We're in America, people, and there's escalations going on for policing action that is more and more and more militarized. And we see this on our TVs every day when we look at the.
And those TV shows, in my mind, are designed to acclimate the people to being used to that happening to their next door neighbors, to those around them. And even though I support Tom Holman and this illegal alien, deportation program, at some point that gets their technology and their ability and refines their militant type ability to et cetera, et cetera. It's a problem, folks. Let me summarize this. The flock camera systems being deployed nationwide assures the fulfillment of 1984 kind of style. Now, the Palantir, or however you say it, style, mass surveillance, it's policing without probable cause. It's violation of due process, government use of people tracking technology or analytics, flips the Constitution on its head, folks. Instead of probable cause leading to investigations, it becomes a data dragnet surveillance, treating everyone as a suspect first. Due process, privacy, everything else second. The presumption of innocence gone. This is not targeted law enforcement, folks. It is suspicion by algorithm. It's incompatible with a free society, period, end of paragraph. There is no way to describe it. So let me finish by answering the question the person had. One, I think going to your sheriff and not getting crazy, but peacefully explaining, this is a violation of my due process. Because if you gather a bunch of information on me, you're gathering stuff where there was no reason to gather that in the first place. And then, hey, without probable cause, the one sending of this information wholesale to government is a violation of the Constitution. It's time to educate our sheriffs. It's time to educate each other. It's time to get our city council and our county commission members involved. You've got to have the people stand together in solidarity to reject this abuse of power. It's that simple. And if you don't have enough people, you better move to where there is enough people. Otherwise, you're going to get run over and ignored and eventually tossed in the clink because government knows no bounds. It's like fire. It's dangerous. All right, Dr. Bradley, Sam Bushman, continue. You're watching the one and only Liberty Roundtable live, syndicated by lovingliberty.net. God save our constitutional republic.